Hi, and welcome to Plane Time, the 17th issue of our broadcast of this quarterly broadcast called Plane Time. I'm Ron Timmermans, one of the many hosts with the Florida Aviation Network, and I'm pleased to be with you today and that you've joined us for Plane Time. We have a great program set up for you with three different people that we'll be visiting with today. And today, by the way, is August 19th, which is National Aviation Day, recognizing the pioneers in human flight. You know, for many, many years, for thousands of years, people have been fascinated with flying. And people would fly kites to investigate the weather. People would build gliders, build balloons, but it wasn't until 1903 when two brothers from Dayton, Ohio, inventors and aviation pioneers, if you will, invented and built the world's first successful airplane and made the first controlled, powered, and sustained heavier-than-air human flight, December 17th, 1903. Prior to that, Charles Taylor, a colleague of theirs, joined the team in pursuit of powered flight. And then current-day automobile manufacturers were not able to build an engine that was sufficiently light enough or powerful enough to power the airplane that they had designed. So Mr. Taylor, a machinist and I guess the world's first aviation mechanic, built a 12-horsepower engine in only 6 weeks that was used to successfully fly and power the world's first airplane. And since that day, aviation has simply exploded. Throughout the United States, across our skies, across oceans, around the world, and even into space. National Aviation Day today is celebrated. It's actually Orville Wright's birthday. He would have been 152 today had he been still alive. And former President Franklin Roosevelt was the creator of the National Aviation Day, deciding for the first time in 1939 that the nation should celebrate the growth and advancements being made in aviation. And Orville Wright, who was still alive at that time, was recognized as his birthday for National Aviation Day. So it's apropos then, isn't it, that we would have plane time on National Aviation Day, and I'm so glad you joined us. If you're listening to it live, that's great. If you're listening to a recorded broadcast, just pretend that it's August 19th and National Aviation Day. So, as I mentioned, we've got a couple of great guests today that we're going to interview, and one of them, a colleague of mine, Mr. Ben Coleman, a name that you probably recognize if you've watched Plane Time before. Normally, Ben is in this seat as the host, interviewing an aviation personality, but now the role is reversed. And Ben, you are the interviewee today, and so thank you for joining me very much. It's good to have you here.
Ron, I'm so nervous.
I can imagine you are. It's a whole new role for you. You're going to actually have to talk about things rather than just interview people. But I'm sure you'll prevail, Ben.
We'll try. And as we were saying, Ron, normally I don't like to use the word "I" very much, but there's no way around it. I'm going to have to use the word "I" a little bit today.
Well, that's okay, because what we've kind of titled this presentation that you're going to make today is the airworthiness world, according to Ben Coleman. And what he said he wants to emphasize is how aviation maintenance has impacted his life and how he believes in many ways he's impacted the lives of other people and inspired other people through maintenance. So I guess we should start, Ben, at the beginning. Were you born into an aviation family, or did you acquire it some other way?
Yeah, I did kind of grow up in an aviation family. My dad was a truck driver, and actually that picture should be up now, but I don't see it, but that's okay. Cut my teeth on a J3 Cub that Dad brought back from Effingham, Ohio, and he started flying back when he was 14. He kind of told a fib about his age and got to flying a little bit earlier than was allowed. But again, rules were made to be adhered to and monitored, but not all the time taken. So,
yeah. And so your dad is Buddy in the picture here, Buddy on the left?
Yeah, that's Buddy on the left.
And your Uncle Ted on the right, you said. And who's that guy in the middle?
Great Uncle Ted, and that's little Benji in the front.
Benji.
Here.
That'd be you.
That'd be me.
Okay, so you did start early.
I did start early. And he'd throw me in the front seat, and I'd get up on my knees so I could see out, and let me wiggle the stick. So that's how I learned. Couldn't say stick and rudder, but I learned stick.
Okay.
I couldn't touch the rudders, but I did learn stick.
Yeah, good. All right.
But I tell you, the aviation and music was my background, and I think it's important to kind of pull in know the people that you're dealing with, even if you're students. I want to be a CFI someday, but I want to get to know my students. What makes them tick? Where'd they come from? What do they do? And it was either aviation or music. And that's a 16-year-old Ben Coleman. I was drum major at my high school. And also, if you notice, that was a grand opening for Disney World. I was the Toy Soldier Band drum major for Disney. And that's what started my music career, because I was a saxophone player. And I decided either aviation or music was going to be my calling.
So do you still play the saxophone today?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Well, great. Well, that's good. So I understand former President Clinton is trying to put together a group to just play saxophones and do a gig somewhere. Or you think you're interested? You might
I'm
put your
backup.
name.
He's
Okay.
got me in for backup.
Okay, that's
strictly
good.
backup.
It'll be good to have you, hear you both.
Okay.
All right, continue, please.
But no, it's just aviation was a lot more vast than music, and I saw a lot of things in music and the Music Guild back at Disney. You had to join the union, and I'm not a conformist, Ron, and it really didn't rub me the right way. So as I'm going to look into this aviation thing, I like to fix things. So I looked into Embry-Riddle for my A&P, and was fortunate enough to get a student loan. And back in that days, my A&P cost me $7,000. And it took me 10 years to pay it off, but I did pay it off.
That's good.
I have a student loan. And, but aviation has opened up so much, and I'm so glad that I went the mechanical route first. Because fly-in was just something that we always did. It was always around, and it wasn't that, I wasn't that concerned about operating the aircraft, but I was concerned about what makes the aircraft tick and what to make it tick the right way. And that's one of the things that Dad left with me. If you're going to do something, do it right. And that's, I've tried to use that as my mantra all along, and it's worked out well. Go ahead, Ron. I don't know what else to say.
Well, so you got your education as A&P, and then you went to work for, was it Lockheed?
Well, I was a cooperative education student with Lockheed Aircraft out of Marietta, Georgia. That was right out of high school, went right into college, and it was a cooperative education program that had opened up, and they were taking 4 people. They had 4 slots. And I was on the C-130 final assembly line. I was in what they called the Air Force shakedown area. We went out to the flight line. We had to go through the aircraft and make sure that all of the job cards are closed, and do a FOD check. And Lockheed had a problem back then because the average age of the plant was 55. And they saw that there was going to be a mass exodus. So they brought in a bunch of young folks from college to try and cross-pollinate them. And so I was working with folks, old enough to be my grandparents on the final assembly line, and I was a grandson, so they took this kid and just poured me full of information. It was just running out my ears. And but what a great way to get a jump start into aviation.
Learning from the masters.
And I got my private pilot's license while I was up in the program, because I was a trimester there and a trimester back in Daytona for college, trimester back in Atlanta, trimester back to alternate until you graduate. And it was frustrating me because I loved aviation and general aviation so much, I couldn't take one of these C-130s out and take it around the patch. That's frustrating as a young man. So I said, I want to do something different. So I looked into Piper aircraft. And that was my first ID badge with Piper.
Yeah, it looks just like you, Ben, only different.
I haven't changed a bit, have I? I don't think so, but Piper gave so many opportunities. And one of the things that people said, well, how does Ben get all the fun jobs? He gets to go on all the neat trips and all that, because Ben raised his hand. I mean, you got to market yourself in this business, and not to be to the point of being obnoxious, but almost. You let people know what your desires are and what you want to do. My last job at Piper was the accident investigation, and I worked almost about 5 years with the FAA and NTSB, helping them technically on all the Piper aircraft that were involved in accidents. And we'd come onto the scene, and they said, "Ben, what's this?" Well, that goes over here and it does that. That was very helpful for the folks. Saved them a lot of time, and it was a very valuable key component to what makes me up to tick.
So while you're working for Piper then, if there was an accident involving a Piper aircraft, the investigators would be there, but they would lean on you for expert knowledge on that particular airplane because you worked for the company and knew all the parts.
We were parties to the investigation, and either the FAA or NTSB, whoever was officiating the accident, would call Piper and say, "We need you up in Maine. We've had one go in, got 4 fatal, and we need you."
Yeah.
So
then
you get a launch, and you go up and get with the team, you work with them, and it was a valuable experience. And
Very good.
It really kind of set me up into going into the NTSB.
Was that the next
That was the next position. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was, I did 5 years with the NTSB, so a total of about 10 years of accident investigation. And I was getting kind of calloused. It was getting a little bit too routine. And even though the safety aspect was critical in that the recommendations that we made as NTSB were usually adopted. And the NTSB has no authority, but unlimited power. It really is a wonderful position. And it was, and I'm still very, very close to my NTSB brothers and sisters, and I work with them well with International Society of Air Safety Investigators. And it's been a real critical point of my coming up when I actually figure out what I want to do in life.
So for about 10 years then, you worked in accident investigation both for Piper and for the NTSB, but I can see where that's focusing just on, shall we call it, the negative side of aviation or the negative impact side of aviation would kind of get to your psyche. And so you went on to something else. What was next for you?
Next was actually getting involved with, I realized that I had a lot of general aviation experience, but I didn't have much heavy aircraft experience. And had an opportunity to go to work for an outfit in Texas. That was my first NTSB position.
Okay.
Up in New York. And I've taken a walk on the wild side, flying a what they call, I guess, a lawn chair with a motor. But it flew.
I think there's a more technical name for that, but lawn chair with a motor will work. We can understand that looking at the picture.
A little interesting side note on this is I didn't realize I had no intentions of flying that day. I was just going to do some high-speed taxi tests. But when you do a high-speed taxi test in an ultralight and you find yourself 20 feet in the air, you're flying. And if I tried to land, I'd probably kill myself. So I went ahead and left the power up and climbed up to about 1,000 feet. And I learned a new term and a new value of the term insignificant. I felt completely insignificant at 1,000 feet with nothing around me but a tube. So it was a good experience.
Now, you already had your private pilot certificate at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, private commercial.
So you, private and commercial, good. So you soloed way back in
1974.
1974.
Yeah.
So you're coming up on the 50-year eligibility for Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award. Next year would be, huh?
I've lost track of time, and but
well, when I add 50
like
to
yesterday.
1974, that's next year, Ben.
Wow.
So let me know if I can write you a letter of recommendation because we need to get you that award.
It just seems like yesterday. It really does.
Well, that's good. It's been a good run in life. Then.
It is. It has been, and this is where it's again maintenance has opened up a completely vast field for me. personally. I don't know if it will for anybody else, but here I was product support for the Hush Kit for the 707. And it was a good 3-year run. And I thought that it was going to be a long time run, but the owner decided that he didn't want to do that anymore. And that's one of the beauty parts of working in other than civil service is your credibility, I'll look for a term, help me, Ron, your stability, your...
Longevity?
Nope, there's a better term.
All right, when it comes to you, you can say
It will,
it.
it'll come up. But when you don't have to worry about a job anymore. Job security.
Yeah.
Your security working out in the real world it can change on a dime. We were talking about somebody, you can make more money with Part 91 corporate flying. I think it was Brandon, your next guest. And you can make more money than working for the airlines. You can, but it might be very short. So you want to go for the long term or the short term? It depends on what makes you happy. And I think that, Ron, that's what we're going to is what makes you happy. This was kind of an interesting little, and again, this is just trying to get the background of me and what makes me tick. I loved going to the desert, and we had this operation where a motley group, he bought like 8 Cessna 337s, and that was the airplane that I was assigned to take it out of pickle, take it out of mothballs, and fly it off of Tucson. And it was an interesting experience. It really was. I did have to put it down at an airport. I thought about putting it down in the desert because I smelled a lot of heat and saw gray smoke coming out of my left strut. If you know anything about the 337s, that's your fuel lines. So fuel line, gray smoke, the odor of heat, that's not a good combination.
I can imagine not.
So the airplane hadn't flown in 15 years. I figured it was time to put it back on the ground. So that's where I left that bird. And but a new definition also of hot. Working in September in the desert in Arizona, it was hot. A lot of appreciation for the folks that work in less than inclement, but less than conditions. But anyway, the attention to detail, and if you're going to do something, do it right. And that's really, really tough to do when you're working on old military aircraft. But you have to have your standards high. Ron, I'm going to ask you a question. What makes airplanes fly?
Well, this concept called lift, huh?
Bernoulli's principle, maybe?
That could help.
Okay. But that's wrong.
Okay.
All these years you've been flight instructing, you taught it wrong.
Okay.
What makes
Enlighten me,
airplanes
please.
fly is money.
Oh, okay. I've experienced that.
I say that tongue in cheek, but it's true. People start trying to cut corners to save money, and invariably it costs you more money in the long run. And that's concerning me about our aging aircraft that we have going on now, is folks try to get in the industry and they're not fully financially prepared to do it. Therefore, they start squeezing every minute out of that logbook that they can before they get into a time-limited component that has to be replaced, and it's expensive. But it can be done. This is not a doom and gloom business, but it can be done, but you gotta be able to afford doing it right. And it concerns me when I start seeing our pilot requirements lessen, getting fewer and fewer hours required, because experience, you can't take it in a pill, you can't read it in a book, you gotta go out and do it. Maintenance. Maintenance is, they're trying to cut back on some of the requirements to become a certified mechanic. I'm sorry, we're not there. We keep cutting back, and I think some of our motivation today for our youth is not so much. It's more how much money can I make, and I don't know what makes them tick. I really don't. I've lost track with some of our young future aviators, but you got to have fun, I've never worked a day in my life in aviation. Done a lot of hard work, but I've never worked a day in my life.
That's a good philosophy.
I'm happy.
That's a good philosophy. So heretofore, we've been kind of talking about your experiences in maintenance and the like. We've got a lot of potential aviation mechanics that are probably watching today and the like, but we also have some pilots. And so, Ben, we got to need like a video or something of an airplane landing. Do you have anything like that?
Well, I happen to have one, and we'll just kind of roll this one out. But here I'm coming back into the home strip. Mel and I live at a private grass airport, and here she's doing the camera work. Did a wonderful job.
And it looks like you did a good job of putting it down on the grass strip, huh?
Well, I was nervous, Ron. My knees were shaking, my hands were shaking.
As always. 2,600 foot, did you say?
Yeah.
Grass?
Grass.
And that was a twin-engine Cessna 337?
Yes, sir.
All right. It can be done.
It can be done with ease. That aircraft accelerates quite a bit. But you got to have fun. There's been some scary moments, as we all have had in airplanes, but the maintenance has really helped me accomplish a lot. And as you mentioned earlier, I thought we were going to segue into what can we do to pull these folks into aviation. You got to get involved. You got to get involved. You can't do it sitting on the couch playing video games. You got to get to the airport. You got to ask somebody for where's a broom? Do you have a broom? Yeah, there's a pile of stuff over here I'd like to sweep up and then throw away. If you don't mind, unless you're saving it. If you're saving it, I'll leave it there. But you got to get involved, and if you see something that needs to be done, do it.
So you got to do the not so fun jobs along with the fun jobs.
You got to get your a whole gallon of gumdrops for your mag drops, and prop wash. You got to go pick the prop wash up. It lays all over the place, but you got to pick it up.
Okay.
That's a joke, Ron.
I understand it. I wasn't quite at the humor level you are, but I think I understand what you're saying.
And it's about having fun. And Ron, if I was to put you on the spot right now and ask you,
Which you're about to do.
Ron, what do you do for fun? Just that you really honestly enjoy doing?
Well, I enjoyed giving flight instruction to people in their airplanes, so making them a better pilot and helping them be safer. That's a real joy for me.
Okay, so you have an opportunity to have fun the rest of your life as long as you can. And you don't even have to have a medical to have fun doing that.
Indeed.
So you can get sick and still have fun.
Well, okay, but I wasn't planning on that,
Okay,
Ben.
well, don't get sick. Don't get
Okay,
sick.
I wasn't planning on that.
Tell me more.
So that's one of my joys. You asked me what's a fun thing that I do, and that's it. So, yeah. How about you?
I have fun doing everything. I enjoy interaction. I've never met a stranger. Dad worked, after he finished his truck driving job, he was in a hardware store. He was assistant manager at a Western Auto hardware store. And I would go in with him on the weekends and watch him. Everybody wanted Buddy. Buddy knows how to do this. Buddy knows how to do that.
That was your dad's name, Buddy, right? Yeah, okay.
And it was just really a pleasure seeing him help so many people. And I think that's kind of what kind of cut my teeth on customer service.
So you saw him helping other people with their needs or their education about something and saw that he got joy from that, so you thought, okay, this might be a thing for Ben to do.
Chip off the old block. I like to fix things. Dad was always working with his hands, and if anything, he was an underachiever. He was capable of so much more than he was able to actually get accomplished. And I might have become an overachiever because I tried to do much more and fill up the days with a lot more than I can do.
So speaking of achievements, and I know you're not one to toot your own horn, but you have been involved in a lot of things in aviation entities, and so let me just give a couple on a list here. Civil Air Patrol, you were with the Florida Wing staff, I guess, for a while. You're involved with Toastmasters International, Seaplane Pilots Association, National Rifle Association, Harley Owners Group. That would be like a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, would it be?
I'm a hog, Ron.
You're a hog, okay, that's good. International Society of Air Safety Investigators, Professional Aviation Maintenance Association, a board member for Florida Aviation Network, the very entity that's producing these videos and the like, and a whole bunch of other alphabet groups. But you've also been involved with aviation manufacturers, as I recalled, and tell us a little bit about that.
That again, cutting my teeth with Lockheed Aircraft and their success motivation training, and then going to Piper. And Piper in the heyday back in the 70s, we were just out of Vero Beach alone. We were delivering 16 airplanes a day.
Wow.
16 airplanes a day. Sometimes, and we got to the point where they would be lucky to do 16 a year. But we were busy. We were flying airplanes all over the place. And after Piper, the next manufacturer that I represented was out of Australia for an Indian-owned Australian airplane, the Airvan. I've got some pictures up in the next segment of the Airvan, but and then most recently was Tecnam out of Italy, and I ran their Sebring delivery center there for a little over a year, and that was a wonderful job. It just wasn't the right fit for me at the time.
Yeah. So working for Tecnam out of Sebring, Florida, not too far from where you live, just north of Lakeland. So I remember a couple years ago when you were with Tecnam and you were taking one of their twins up to Oshkosh, and my wife Barbara and I were flying up as well, and I heard your unmistakable voice on the radio on the ATC frequency, and so I asked the ATC controller, would you ask the pilot and airplane end number such and such to meet me on a discrete frequency, and you did. And so we were chatting as you and Melody were going to Oshkosh, and Barbara and I were going to Oshkosh and visiting on a private frequency, and that was fun, as it always is. But I remember you telling me you were doing about 140 knots, I think it was, and you said 9 gallons an hour, and I said, is that 9 gallons an hour per side? You said, no, total of 9 gallons per hour. I was quite envious, I tell you, because I was in a single engine Bonanza, going a little bit faster, of course, but burning a whole lot more gas than 9 gallons per hour. But you were tooling along, and we both made it to Oshkosh and back and safely. So that was
one piece.
Yeah, and while we were at Oshkosh, I remember coming by the booth and seeing both you and Melody there, and the big display that Tecnam had there that year, and they're really making an entry into the U.S. aviation market. So. Yeah. That was good. Well, we're going to have to take a break here in a little bit. Ben, you said Lockheed, Airvan, and Tecnam, and was one of those Mahindra? Was that the Airvan?
Mahindra was the Airvan.
Okay, and that's the Indian owner with an Australian airplane, was it?
Correct.
Okay, so Ben has been involved with international work, both as an investigator and as a representative of an aircraft manufacturer. Fascinating career. And so it's been a pleasure talking to you so far. We got more to come, but we're going to have to take a break here in just a few moments. So we'll be taking that break. And so if you're watching at home, you can do that biological break if you'd like, and we'll reset here and take our breath and get a sip of coffee and use the facilities as well. But do come back. We've got more to hear from Ben Coleman and his fascinating career and how it could possibly impact you if you have an interest in being a aviation mechanic, or just some thoughts and tips from Ben on how you can be a better you than you are. I'm Ron Timmermans for the Florida Aviation Network, and we're signing off just for 15 minutes. We'll be back at 15 minutes after the hour. Stay tuned and come back and visit us in just a few moments.